just want to, just as a brief introduction of who I am and what I'm doing here. I'm an implementation consultant with OneVision. I've been working with Sage off and on for the last 20 or so years. Actually started before they were called Sage. I ended up actually teaching data file structures and crystal reports for both end users and partners for Sage. So I have a lot of experience with creating custom reports in Sage and also some other products, a lot of SQL writing and doing some custom reports. So as Casey said, if there are any questions, I know there's a lot of material here that I want to review. So I don't want to go into too much detail on all these different reporting options we have. But if there are any specific questions you have, feel free to drop them in the Q&A, or our contact information is at on the last slide. So we'll be able to field any of those questions after our session today. So please feel free to reach out that way. So just as a quick little agenda, I want to talk a little bit about the reporting options that we have within Sage Intacct. And those options are core reports, interactive custom reports. I put interactive custom reports twice. So it's interactive visual explorer, and then pulling everything in together with dashboards. You'll hear me say, probably mistakenly, ICRW, which is interactive custom reports, or IVE, which is interactive visual explorer. So those are the two things that we'll be focusing on later in the presentation. And those are really add-ons to Intacct. So we'll talk a little bit about the core reports that are included in all of your implementations, and then there's some options of what we can do to add on functionality for some advanced reporting. So, different organizations, they're in different stages of where you're at with your reporting. You're always going to start with your core reports. These are the standard reports that are built into Intacct. And you're probably all familiar with these standard reports. They're all under the Intacct Report Center. And if you don't mind, I like doing a little bit more visual. I'm not really more of a PowerPoint guy. I'd rather just pull up some screens. So you'll see in the Report Center, we have our financial reports. These are all of your balance sheets, your income statements, your P&L statements. These are all reports that come with Sage. Now, the financial reports, they do allow you to edit some of these, and you can make changes through the edit function. And it does have a financial report writer, which is a nice feature. So if you wanted to add some additional columns to your balance sheet detail, you can add that. And I'll go into a little bit more detail later about how we can create new reports as well. We also have financial graphs that we can create. So we can create some basic, pie charts, bar charts, some information regarding our financial reports. The detail reports are more of our transactional reports. So those are the reports that aren't based on financial information, not balance sheet, income statement, but they're more lists of accounts payable bills, accounts receivable invoices, and these you can't edit. We can have customizations for which periods you're going to want to run these off of and how much data you're going to export out. But these are under your reports under the different modules. So we have AP and AR. If we wanted to run an AR ledger, these are the standard reports that we're going to run inside of Intacct. And again, these are not modifiable. Oops. So I apologize. That's going to happen a few times here today because there are some required data. Our location is required in this particular environment. So these are the standard reports that we're getting inside of Intacct. There's some of the downsides for this is there's no customizations on the formatting. So our headers they look like this, and that's the way they're going to look. There's very little customization that we can do to these standard transactional reports. The nice thing about these is we can combine all these into dashboards. We'll look into some example dashboards a little bit later on, but any of these reports that you're looking at on a regular basis, we can drop them into a dashboard. We like to create a dashboard for each type of user we have. So if we have a controller dashboard, we have a CFO dashboard, project managers are a good one, and AP clerks are another good one. That way you can see these reports all in one place. That way you're not opening up separate reports and running them in different areas and trying to save them. We can all see them in one place. So what we really want to focus on today is some of the additional tools that we have available in Intacct. We have the Interactive Visual Explorer. IVE is something that allows us to do a little more graphical presentation of data. We can generate a lot of graphs and visuals for our data, and also modify it on the fly. So if I want to see a particular location or any other dimension, I can change it on the fly and it changes right on the screen. Interactive Visual Explorer is really good for creating PowerPoint presentations. If you're reporting to a board of directors of some sort, and you want to put some nice pretty pictures in there, this is a great way to do it. The Interactive Custom Report Writer is also a little bit more advanced reporting tool for generating those detail reports. So if I want to have a little more detailed information on our AR customers or our AR invoices, then we can create those with Custom Report Writer. We also have another option called Data Delivery Services. If any of you are out there or have some third-party tools that you want to use, or you're creating a data warehouse, we actually have the capability of exporting the data from Intacct to a third-party system and then doing some external reporting that way. So if you're using something like a Power BI, or you have a data warehouse in Microsoft Azure or AWS, then we can actually export that information out there and generate those a little bit more advanced reports and tie them in with other applications. Okay. So we want to differentiate between our different reports. Our core financial reports, and these are the ones that we can edit, but these are always going to be the ones that we're using financial data only. So we're looking at periods, we're looking at beginning balances, your transaction or your activity during the month, and then your ending balance. These are modifiable with the financial report writer. The financial report writer allows us to add additional columns if we like. We can change the periods. We can change the books. So if you have forecasting potentially, or you have tax books that you can change, we can make those modifications right in the system. This is a little sample. This is what the financial report writer looks like. So we have the balance sheet in detail that I'm modifying. If I wanted to add a separate column, we have 3 actual columns here. One prior period and 2 prior periods. If I wanted to add a column for additional period, I can just come in here, add, essentially duplicating this one column, and then give it an offset of 3 periods. I can actually preview it, and that's a pretty quick way of adding an additional column. You can see on the end here, I've added a 4th period to this report. These are also exportable to Excel. So you can pull this information into an Excel spreadsheet, or you can email these reports. If you're creating these from scratch, which you certainly can do, there's an option under New Report. And under Financial Report, we can create a new report. And the interesting thing about this is we can base these reports based on accounts. And this is essentially what you would use for income statement and balance sheets. So we're going to say, okay, we want to create a balance sheet. We're going to list our accounts and groupings of accounts down the left-hand side. Those are going to be our rows. Or we can recreate them by dimensions. So here, we're going to have our customers as an example. We're going to list all of our customers down the left-hand side, and on the top are essentially our accounts. We have revenue and expenses. So we have, the actual revenue for each individual customer listed down, and the actual expenses listed down. So it's really kind of flipping the dimensions here between your accounts and your other dimensions. If we select dimensions, we can report on this based on any of our dimension structures that we've had set up. So in this particular company, we have departments, locations. We can do, all locations. We can do, just US. There's also some advanced attributes we can add. So on our projects, we have some dimension structures in here. So we have billable projects, we have internal projects, and these are all attributes of the project, so that we can generate a report based on, okay, I want to see split out my billable projects and my internal projects, and we make those as separate rows. Okay. And then our columns is going to tell us what our actual values are going to be. Add this. We can add, I'm going to do it by project manager. So here's all of our project managers, and we're going to show the detail of those project managers. And the columns is where we add, well, okay, what are we going to add? We're going to add an account group of, in this particular case, let's do revenue, do some sort of revenue. We'll do all of our revenue. And then that way it's going to show our revenue by project manager. Okay. You can also filter these reports. We're going to do specific locations because of our requirements here. We'll do 100, and then we can also preview this report. To be honest, I'm not sure if this is going to give me any data, but yeah. So that is how you would create a new financial report inside of Intacct. Some pretty good functionality, but not a lot of advanced functionality. If you notice, there's not a lot of calculations involved here. We can create a calculation that's the difference between one column and another, but not a lot of advanced calculations. So if I want to create a special column that gives me a lot of advanced calculations, not a great tool for it. But for standard income statement or any kind of revenue and expense reporting, it's a great tool that actually comes included in the system. Okay. When you're creating your columns, we can have a budget, actual, forecast, different types of columns. You can compare those. Like I said, you can create a calculation based on, actual versus budget, or budget versus forecast. We can also have a beginning, ending, and a period activity columns. So if you want to show your beginning balance, your activity, and then your ending balance, we can do that. And then, as we said, the account attributes and different periods that we can show. So this is really good for creating your standard financial reports in the system. Okay. One of the big things with extending those financial reports is really thinking about and modifying your dimensions. So, you probably have dimensions set up already in the system with locations. We have departments. We also have standard dimensions such as vendors and customers that we can report on, but you can also expand some of those. Here in this example, what we're able to do is, okay, are these particular departments, are they revenue producing departments? So when we check off those as revenue producing departments, we can then group our reports that way. So we're actually adding attributes to those departments. So we don't have to add an additional hierarchy. Say, for instance, we don't have to put a top level hierarchy of revenue producing or non-revenue producing. We can just check off whether they're a revenue producer or not. And we can achieve this by creating a custom field on that department. And it's really just a checkbox. And we can do other things as well. So if you wanted to describe your location as maybe you want to break it down by state, but you don't want to have it really in your hierarchy. That's a lot of information in your hierarchy. We can do a drop down and say state, and then we can generate reports based on that. Okay, and you'll see in the example report here, then we have a split out between the revenue generating. These two are selected as revenue generating, and then the rest of them are non-revenue generating. And having that additional field, that additional attribute, just makes it easier to create these reports and run these reports. And you can also pivot these reports, so you can look at the data the way you want to see it. So you see up here on the top, this is based on dimension. This is a dimension report. So those top columns are your location. So here we have a gross profit. We're going to break it down by our different locations, our Boston, San Francisco, Omaha, and then we sum them all up for all locations. You also see that anytime you see anything blue, we can click on it to expand it on the left-hand column. And then we can also drill to detail. So if we have these utilities and facilities, we have detail information. Anytime you see anything blue, you can click on it and you can drill to detail. We also have on the bottom of this report is statistical. We have capabilities of creating what are called statistical accounts that are ways of tracking numerical values that aren't necessarily financial information. So this one is the number of customers. So how many customers does Boston have? How many customers does San Francisco have? This is good for also calculating for revenue by customer. What's your average revenue per customer? So we can do some analysis that way. Any questions about the financial reports? If you have any questions, you can send them over to the Q&A or the chat. And, so I don't think anyone is able to speak on the webinar, but go ahead and send any of those questions in if you have any. And then we have the core transactional reports. Now they look very similar in the system, but the big difference is the transactional reports are not based on financial data. And you didn't see me, but I did little air quotes on that. So these are non-financial information. They're not balance sheet, income statement. They're not beginning balance, things like that. These are actual listing of transactions. So here we have examples of AR invoices, AP bills, purchase orders, sales orders, things like that. So these are standard, they're built in. They do not have any editing capabilities for these. When you open them, you can customize the report parameters. So you can run these reports based on your dimensions or your the particular period you're running on. But the big difference is that you can't make any changes to these reports. If you notice, I can't do any editing on most of these reports. The only ones that I do have editing on, you can tell these are customized ones that we actually created. So that's why we see an edit there. Okay. So that's where we get into our custom reports. Our custom reports are very similar to our standard transactional reports, but these ones are ones we create ourselves. These are for, okay, we need to group our customers in a certain way, or vendors in a certain way, or invoices or bills in a certain way that the system just didn't provide for us. We can also create reports with additional fields on them. So again, these are transactional reports. They won't be Really useful for balance sheet income statement type of reports. You get to choose the data set to use, and the data set to use is really based on the modules and then the amount of detail you're looking into. So let me, again, it's easier for me to explain if I go ahead and just pull up the report center. This is for creating new reports under custom reports. We can start from an existing custom report, which we have a list of custom reports that Sage provided. And it depends on which modules that you're subscribed to for Sage, but these are available for making any changes to, and then you save them as a new report. Okay. But instead of creating from scratch, I can click add and then choose my primary data source. We have a lot of primary data sources. This is probably one of the trickier things to choose from. And every once in a while, it will take 1 or 2 tries to get the correct data source. But I guess really the best thing to look at is, are you looking at detailed transactions or top level transactions? So if I'm looking at bill, an AP bill, or am I looking at AP bill detail? So the detail will give you your line items. The AP bill will give you the invoice number, okay, or the bill number. So I generally select the bill detail because that's usually what we're going to be reporting on. And it's a pretty simple wizard that they give to you. They even select a couple items that they recommend using. We have a base amount for the bill detail. If we have projects, we have a task ID and a project ID that we can select. And then we have a total due and a total paid, which would be useful for our bills. But we also have related fields, and these are the AP bill at the top level. This gives me my date information, and should have a vendor information if I can find it, and vendor name. We can do calculated columns. Now, one of the deficiencies here is we don't have a lot of functionality with the calculated columns. We can only calculate based on numeric items on the in the fields that exist, and we can also only do like simple mathematics here. I can't do any kind of if-then statements or any kind of logic functionality here, and there's also no date functionality in here. So some of the aging reports we have, if we wanted to do any kind of calculations based on dates, this is where we kind of run into some problems with the standard custom report wizard. We can select the column sequence, which shows where our columns are. We sum our data, or I may add any totals to the report. We sort the columns. So if I wanted to sort by vendor name, we can do that. Filter our report, whether we want to go by specific locations or other filters. But the big thing I want to talk about is grouping. Grouping this data is pretty useful for creating these reports. We can have no grouping, which is just going to give me a list of all my detail items, or we can have a grouping. So I want to group this, and I want to group it by the vendor name. And this was under AP bill. And I want to group it by vendor name. And then I also want to group it by, by bill number or document ID. So we can sort that and sort those. The reporting period is pretty important, especially in our report. Right now, this particular company doesn't have any transactions in the current month. So what I do is there's an option for inception to date. Now, if you go back to your offices and don't see this, there is a way to add inception to date to your standard reporting periods. So if you have any problems finding that, just let us know and we can help you out with that. Because not all the companies open up with inception to date. We've run into that problem a few times. And we can just go ahead and view that report. And you'll see my little quick and dirty vendor report. Okay. So again, just a real quick one. I would normally go in here and then move the columns around, make sure it looks okay, add my totals, and make it look a little pretty, give it a header. But that's a quick and easy way to make a transactional report with a custom report writer. Okay. They do come with these standard reports, but like I said, there depends on how many modules you have, and there's really not a lot of the standard reports. Really, a good way of creating some new reports is just taking one of the existing core reports and then putting it on one screen and then creating a new one on another, just to see the type of fields to throw on. Okay. So this is a little sample custom report that we just threw together here, just a job cost report, and we're grouping, by job cost, by jobs, and by tasks. So it gives us our different cost codes and amounts and the entry date. Again, good for some pretty simple reports to give you, transactional data. So next is where we actually get into some of the fun reports. We have what's called Interactive Custom Report Writer. It really takes the standard custom report writer and adds a lot more functionality to it. It's gonna be a drag and drop type of report writer. You're going to be able to select multiple reporting data sources. So if you want to pull some information from accounts payable, but then also pull some information from projects, you can do that. Also within purchase orders, so you can actually link different tables and different reporting areas, and it gives you a lot more design options. So in the standard reports inside of Intacct, we don't have a lot of options for making the titles look nice, or we don't have any options for highlighting some of the rows. You'll notice in this particular report, some of our items are green, some are red, and then we also have abilities to add graphics inside of columns. So we do have a lot of options here. You also have calculations. In our previous example, we couldn't do any calculations based on dates. In Interactive Custom Report Writer, we can do transactions on dates, which is very, very useful. So if you're looking to group purchase orders by length of time open, that's a common request. Is okay, these purchase orders were sent 30 days ago. Let's group these things, and why haven't they been received yet? We also have options for pivot tables that we can slice and dice our data in different ways that we wouldn't be able to do in the standard custom reports. And also a lot of drill down. We can drill down into the actual report, or we can drill down into the supporting documentation for those reports. Interactive Custom Report Writer is an additional module, so it's an add-on to Intacct, but it does give a lot of additional functionality. When you get Interactive Custom Report Writer, the Intacct does give you some sample reports. So these are some pre-built reports that you can really start off with. There's a lot of type of good reports in here, like oops. How do I go back? Let's see. Sorry. So, we have AP top spend, which would be a good report to go into, GL profit and loss summary. We can do some financial reporting in ICRW. There is some reasons to not do it that way because, in the regular financial reports, we have a lot of the actual periods, for the beginning and ending balance. But if we do want to add some additional financial data to interactive customer reports, we can do that. It's a great way to do AR aging reports and AP aging reports. One of the samples we're going to look at is AR aging by item. So if you have inventory items that you want to break down your aging by those items. Purchasing is another really useful module for ICRW. So items to receive is going to show you your your outstanding purchase orders that haven't been received yet. Purchases by item, so we get a lot more detail. And these all come with ICRW and then are modifiable. So I can open up any one of these, add columns, and make them any different that will make any changes that we would like to see to fit our business. Okay. This is a sample of what ICRW looks like. So as I said, there is a drag and drop functionality. So on the left-hand side here, we have our reporting area. And here, this is one that's AR detail. And we can just drag and drop these individual items over to reports. And you'll see also this report, this has two tables in it. In this particular report, we have AR aging by item. So on the left-hand side, we have all of our different items, and we can show our aging per the item. And I can also drill down into these. So if I click on a customer name, it will open up the table here to show, okay, where are all the items for AP Square. So these two tables are linked. We can pull that information into a separate table. There is a lot of different formatting you can do. These column headings can be changed if you wanted to highlight some columns. You can also, you'll notice that the totals are bolded here, and we can also have different colors for the different, so if it's over 90 days, we want to record that, or over a certain dollar amounts, over $100,000, we can put it in red. The advanced calculations, as we said a little bit before, is some of these 130, 3160, some of these can be modified as well and do custom calculations. And if you're really advanced, we have some custom SQL. So creating this report generates the standard query language for generating the report. And we can actually add additional reporting areas to this report by adding custom SQL. We can actually do custom joins and get a little really down and dirty into the SQL of creating these custom reports. So this is a sample interactive custom report, and I'm gonna go ahead and pull one up. Let's see. So these are a couple sample ICRW reports. And I say ICRW, it's Interactive Custom Report Writer, but they're actually Interactive Custom Reports. So this is the AP Vendor Aging Summary and Build Details report. It's pretty similar to the AR version of it. So when I run it, I can hear this one we have custom prompts as well. So if you have, in this particular case, we have different currencies, but we can create custom prompts if you wanted to see per location or per project or any kind of dimension that we can prompt to it. So I'm just going to go ahead and view it the way it is. And you'll see that I have the summary information over here by vendor. And then on the right-hand side, we have the detailed information by vendor. So if I click on, let me see, let's look at one of these big ones. So HC equipment repair, I can click on that. And then my column over here opens up to HC equipment repair. So I can see the detail of the 172.5 on the left and then the actual detail of all the information here and see what's outstanding. Okay. This is not set up to drill down, but we could certainly make this drill down. We just need to add a little bit of functionality to this, and then this would end up being blue, and we can actually go drill down to the source record. And then we come here and we can choose any of the vendors, and will give us our detail. So this is a simple or a similar one for AR aging. This is our AP one. When you're modifying these reports, I'm going to go ahead and click on Edit to modify these reports, and you can see this is our report screen, and this allows us to add additional columns here. We can add dimensions to this. So if I wanted to, let's say, let's do department, or actually location, be a better option. I can just double click it and it adds it to the report. And then I can also group this. These are called sections. So I can add this as a section. And then here I automatically grouped these vendors by their location. Okay. We can also do a lot of formatting. We add different borders and background colors, make it look a little prettier. So those are always options. Our custom prompts. Right now we have transaction currency, but we can always add a new prompt. We can, if we want to pull it in just for a particular location, we can do that. And then, like I said, this is all, they will share all of the SQL and also all of the formatting. So this is all XML formatting that if you have a report developer or a developer on staff, you can have them make any changes to this and then copy and paste them back into the system. And those changes will be reflected in the report. Same thing with the SQL. We can open up the SQL and we can actually see the code in the background, and I can add additional tables here. So we have just the AP transactions table, but we can join another table to it and add more functionality to the report. Not that anyone needs to know to do that or need to do that, but it is available. So just so you know that there is more advanced functionality to these reports. Okay. I don't see any open questions right now. So I'm going to move on to Interactive Visual Explorer. Now IVE, or Interactive Visual Explorer, is really more of a dashboarding tool. You'll see a lot of dashboarding functionality here. Allows you to see, visually representing your data. You're going to be able to explore the data and then also click and highlight certain data. We do have some predictive analytics that we can add to these IVE reports. These are, like I mentioned before, these are really good for board reports. If you want to show revenue over the last year, compared to prior year, this gives us a lot of detailed reports on it on a visual manner. We also have mapping capabilities. So if we have a multinational company, we can show where a lot of that revenue is coming from. And it's really, Sage calls it a storytelling application. So we can go from one storyboard to another. We can show all of the transactions from certain customers or groups of customers. and tells us a good story with our data. So Interactive Visual Explorer is also a good way of adding additional functionality to your dashboards. So these are some dashboards that we can actually put into Intacct. We add some of these IVE reports into to a dashboard, and they're interactive, as the name says. So if I were to click on some of these, of course this is a screenshot, but I can click on these and then drill down into that data, or actually highlight some of that data and modify some of the other reports on the system. We do have 200 pre-built charts and graphs that we can start with. So there is a lot of information out there that we can build these with. There are plenty of good examples that the Sage has provided. And then we also have 25 visual choices. These are different types of graphs that we can create. We have our tables, our maps. We can do a map of the United States. So if we wanted to show different cities, different states, things like that. Scatter plots, radar charts, all these different types of data that can be placed on these IVE reports. So really where we would want to use these is kind of like I was saying before, like word reports. We have a lot of executive and managerial analytics. These are things that maybe not need to look into detail information, maybe not need to drill down into invoices or individual transactions. But this gives us a really good overview of all your different comparisons, your trends, things that are going on in the company as a whole. We do have some predictive analytics that we can then say, okay, where our budgets and forecasts coming up, then we can add into these IVE reports to give us some analysis into some future looking data. There is a little bit of a learning curve to opening up these reporting tools, especially with IVE, but these are some really good reports that you can start off with, and as you get better, they are really built for a standard business user to be using. They're not. It wasn't built for the developer. You should be able to come in here, and if you're used to using any of the other reporting tools like Power BI or Tableau, things like that, you should be able to come in here and generate a lot of different reports. Intacct does come up with a lot of out-of-the-box reports in IVE, a lot of budget versus actual analysis, productivity analysis types of reports. Your aging analysis are another good ones. A lot of overview and analysis reports. You'll see those words here a lot. We're going to analyze some of these, analyze this data over certain periods. We're going to show timesheet analysis. How many hours are being spent? Do we want to look at overhead hours versus billable hours, and also a lot of projects analysis. Again, these are reports that you can start off with and then make modifications to. So if I wanted to, take a look at one of these and then have it as a kind of a springboard to adding that into the system. Here's a sample Visual Explorer report, and I can pull up a live one so we can see the interactivity to it. So this is a total due by customer. This is an AR aging analysis report. So there's a lot here I can do. If I click on one section, then it will actually highlight that section and make changes to it. So if I wanted to highlight this particular section, it gives me some data underneath it, or I can unhighlight it. There's also on the bottom we have different tabs. So here we have the AR aging, and we have the AR aging by customer. So, on the front page, we have all of our graphs, but we now can come in here and look at some of the detail information. We can break it down by customer and by account. And we can pull in the detailed data to the system. We can also, up here, we can filter this report on the fly. So if I wanted to select a particular customer, I just wanted to see one customer, and then it automatically updates the reports. Okay. So you can see I finally caught one with some data in it. Okay. Or we can see them all. We can also break it down by location. So if I just want to see our USA 1, or just add to USA 2. So these are just going to be our United States transactions. Of course, our segments, years, we can break it down. We just want to see this year. That would be fine, which is probably going to be very low. Or we can compare it to last year. And again, so we have all filtering information up top. And the nice thing about this is you don't have to close out this report, reselect your data, your filters. You can just do it straight from the report. This is another report. I believe this is the, oops, back to my, there we go. This is open converted orders. This is our sales orders that we have. I'm sorry, yeah, sales orders. And detail analysis that we can see. So these are our invoices that we've created. But again, the nice thing about generating your report this way is that we can filter on the fly. So if I just want to see my fixed fee invoices or my time and materials invoices, we can do that. Okay. And lastly, we have the dashboards, really bringing all of these different types of reports with dashboards. I have a sample dashboard here that brings together some of our, at the top here, these are just little tags of sample data that we can bring in. We can show not only financial data, but statistical data. So how many hours have been worked in the system. This is we do a lot of projects reporting, a lot of projects dashboards. So this is one of our better reports. This is going to be the a financial report. And oops, that happened. Well, let's just go to the live report. Let's go to the live dashboard. So this is the actual dashboard. And you can see this is a custom report that we created. I can actually, since I have administrator rights, and if you're creating these dashboards, you can come in here and actually edit these reports straight from the dashboard. This was created using the financial report writer. And we've added these reports with different columns for labor costs, hours worked, revenue, different column headings for these. We have the project financials for build and revenue, which actually that may be very similar. And then we also have ICRW reports in here. So here we have build costs, and this is an ICRW report that we've added to the dashboard. And again, if I wanted to come in here and edit it straight from here, as long as I'm an owner of the dashboard, I can come in here and to do some changes to it. I also have some open POs here and some milestone billings, 2 more ICRW reports. And I'm also mixing them in with some more financial reports down below. And then also some custom links. We can do links to reports, or we can do links to the actual applications, and we can create custom links here. Okay. So that is what I have for today, and I know we're running a little low on time, so I apologize if I ran a little bit long there. I was trying to get through a lot of data pretty quickly. So